want to be the very best, like no one ever was. To build them is your real test. To share them is your cause. To shape the grandest realm that no one's ever seen. To forge the worlds, to craft the lore, to make them live and gleam. World builder, crafting worlds that never break. To dream, to forge, to make. World builder, holy shit, we're gonna get a copyright claim.
Wait, what?
Oh man, my voice hurts. And I have 81 minutes of cardio. Holy crap. And you know what? None of it showed up in the skit. Because this mic, this little asshole right here, kept blowing my voice out. This luscious, gorgeous voice. Can you believe that? I ultimately just took it as an omen from Odin that I shouldn't do that. So with that being said, I want to talk to you today about the number one thing that is going to make you the best world builder possible. And I know this first thing, well, I say one thing, there's going to be two, but the first thing, it's going to be obvious. You're going to be like, Chris, why did you say this? Why did you put this on? This is so dumb. Why did you do this? Why did you put this on YouTube to waste my time? Well, I'm going to say to you, well, sit down, shut up, and you might learn something. That's what I'm going to say to you. So, but this first one, again, this is the obvious. We're going to breeze through this and go to number two. First one is that you should listen to me. Because it has been scientifically proven without prejudice or bias that listening to me will make you a great world builder. Yes, I definitely do not have the same kind of prejudice that CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and all them have about themselves. No. And I'm definitely not saying this because there is an eldritch algorithmic god that is dictating my worth online and on this platform through interactions like shares, and subscribes and all that. Definitely not. I say this is with pure honesty. Now, with all that being said, the second thing, this is the complicated thing. I know it's not like the first, but the second is you got to be a lifelong learner. You want to be the best world builder possible, you got to be a lifelong learner. And to be a lifelong learner, you really have to follow these steps. First, you have to life, and then you have to lifelong, and then you have to learn, and then learn long, and then you have to do all four of those at the same time. I know, this is the kind of analysis that you come to this channel for every day. But with that being said, why should we become lifelong learners? I'm so glad you asked. It may be easy for you, like you may get this, but some people are not going to get this. Because I do remember a time not too long ago that I was like, oh, right, this is how it works. And sometimes it's the simple things that takes 20 hours of thinking through something that you go, oh my God, that's there. So I would just encourage you, as you hear things, don't just discount them since they're simple, because it's often the simple things that's tripping people up, that's tripping you up. It is not the mountain that trips you, it's the pebble. And with that being said, yes, knowledge is power. Great. Fantastic. I know it's a cliche, but knowledge is the power to act. It is. The more that you learn, the more ways that you learn to act. Or maybe a better way to say that is, the more that you learn, the greater your capacity for different kinds of thoughts, different kinds of actions grows. Now, to be able to have knowledge, we have to learn. And by learning, we don't mean just repetition, but we mean to understand something. Because knowledge requires understanding. Great, simple, excellent, got that out of the way. But once we understand something, our capacity to have like possible action, possible thoughts come rushing in is just greatly manifested. So, before we do any of that, what do we do first? If you've heard me in any videos other than there's two of them that I haven't mentioned this, you're going to know what I'm going to say. Purpose. What the hell is your purpose? What are you doing this for? You're about to make yourself do a whole lot of work For what? Because if you don't know why you want to do this, how you want to get there, what you want to achieve, what the destination is, any of these things, you don't know it. It's like, why am I doing all this mental lifting? You're not going to want to do it. So know your purpose. And the second is that your purpose is going to shape how the journey looks. So again, I'm going to eventually try to do a video when I feel like I've got enough stuff on how purpose works and the kind of flow chart of things that you need to go through. But generally speaking, we say, well, our purpose is world building. I'd say, great. What kind of world building? There's cultural world building. There's world building for video games, for novels, for game sessions. There's map making. There's species building. There's all sorts of stuff. And depending on what you're really interested in right now is going to dictate the kind of things that you are going to get yourself involved in. Like I mentioned, map making. So you're going to have to think about cartography, geography, probably ecosystems. And you're going to have to learn all that different stuff. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give you the 3 that I recommend that I think you should learn. Now, there's a caveat to this, because I am training myself in the first discipline, and I'm going to make a buttload of content because I am going to farm the hell out of this suffering. For you, my dear viewer, nobody does suffering like me. I'm the best at suffering. It's amazing. But I'm doing the first course for you to give to you, so you don't have to worry about it. But here's my 3. My first is cultural anthropology. Why cultural anthropology? Well, because all sapient beings, insofar as we know, and by the way, I do have to make this point right here very clear. And I'm not nitpicking. This isn't a pet peeve. I'm just saying I'm elucidating your understanding of this topic. And it is that sentience is not intelligence. Sentience has to do with being able to feel and have emotions. Sapience is where you understand things, and it's a spectrum, right? Let's be clear here. Okay, with that out of the way, all the species that we know that are sapient, and we're talking higher levels of the spectrum sapience, right? Because I do think that animals have sapience to some degree. I mean, you spend any time with animals and you don't think that they are behavioral machines. Like, again, if you really believe that they are behavioral machines, get some help. Stop it. What are you doing? Go get an animal, love them, and watch them love you back. Which they did scientifically prove, right? Like the neural activation, they don't look at you and have the same feelings as they do for the hot dog. Like, that's not the case. But that being said, cultures, all sapient things on the higher end of the sapiens scale, great cultures. Well, so if I'm going to have characters in my book, and by the way, you can have animal characters in your book, but we often anthropomorphize them and then we give them cultures. So it's like, you really got to kind of have cultures to, they seem to be a mainstay of like foundations for world building. So that's why I say cultural anthropology. But again, your boy's got you covered. He's going to do it for you. The second thing I would say is that you need to learn systems thinking. Why do you ask? Well, I'm so glad that you did ask in my voice through me. And that was because systems thinking is how we can look at the world as an interconnected whole. And that's really what the world is. It is an interconnected whole. It's all these small little things, or in some instances, like we're talking about ecologies, big things. Camera, come back. Thank you. Big things all put together. And, excuse me, all these things like influence each other, right? And again, I'm being very vague here because I haven't really worked it out. I understand like feedback loops, and then I don't even remember the 2 feedback loops because again, I've not been doing the research on this. But I do think it's highly valuable. In fact, they're saying that this is the #1 skill if you're going to be a world leader, or a leader in any high up position, they are now saying this is the number one skill to do. But guess what? World builders have been doing this all the time. Really good worlds do have systems in it and systems thinking. And so it's going to elucidate that process, the kind of invisible forces that go on and shape the reality around us. And then the third is ecologies, which is a system of biological things interacting with each other. Not consensually. I was going to make a consensual joke, but it's definitely not consensual. And you may have noticed that there's a pattern. All of them are systems. Oh, I didn't mention that with cultures. By the way, the kind of freaky thing with cultures is the idea that cultures are patterns of behavior. Like, imagine the culture that you're living in now, and then I take you and I go drop you over here in a completely different culture. And granted, let's say that you have the ability to speak the language, okay? There is a cultural logic and a system of symbols, all words that you're going to soon understand when I do my exams for you. I'll talk about that in a minute. But that cultural logic and the system of symbols that you're dealing with would make no sense to you because that's an internal logic. It makes sense to them. And what's interesting about cultures, especially in human, like for humans, right? Like genetically, we're all the same. Like the Human Genome Project showed that we are all genetically the same. Yet, think about Eastern and Western societies. Our cultures are like fundamentally different. Yes, thank you, Freya. She agrees. I'll be right back. And I'm back. So, cultures are patterns of behavior that have their own kind of internal logic. And if I take you and I put you in a culture that you don't, like somewhere over in the, like Asia, like you would have no concept of what's going on. The symbols are different. The culture is different. And again, saying that maybe you can understand the language, but my God, their worldview is totally different. So humans are all the same, but yet the structures in which we build out cultures, like these mental structures, are all completely different, which is incredible. That shows like humans are so multifaceted. So anyways, that being said, cultures impress upon us our ability to perceive the world and the kind of actions that we can take. Now, going back to ecologies. Ecologies are a system of, again, I haven't really studied this one out, but basically we understand that it's how plants and animals and us and how we all interact to each other. We have the food chain and we have all these different various ideas. Well, ecosystems, like cultures build ecosystems. Urban environments are a sort of ecosystem. We have rabbits and squirrels in our neighborhood, and hawks and owls, and ravens. Oh, we're going to make an altar to the ravens to become, like, we're forging an alliance right now. Like, we're setting up the plan to forge the alliance with the ravens. Hopefully we'll get that going, and I'll like film that. That would be really cool, like cultural exchange with the raven folk. It's going to be peak content. But ecologies not only surround us and our cultures, but our cultures build ecologies. Like, again, that's an interconnection between all of life that we have. And I think if you could study these three topics, you would know a lot. Now, you may say, Chris, my guy, I don't want to deal with that. Great. Eventually I'm going to deal with it and you don't have to. That is like my hope and my promise with this channel, that we will eventually get through all this. Maybe you want to do politics. Why not? Politics can be very intriguing when it's not on CNN, Fox and Biz, MSNBC, ABC, and all them, right? Politics can actually be very unique. Well, you know what? One of the greatest things to learn about for politics is systems thinking, because politics is really setting up the system to make it run, and hopefully that you have a functional state. But again, you may want to go to politics not through the lens of social systems. That's great. Again, I'm going to take care of you eventually. Now, how do we go about setting up a system for learning? Here's my kind of controversial hot take. And this may only be a hot take, for the Twitter heads out there. but I do think that you should use AI. AI is not going anywhere. Um, I don't, you can complain about it all you want. And again, I do have my gripes with it. I think that we can do things ethically. I think that we could do things better. But I'm not going to hold my breath until, humanity wakes up and we start doing better. Instead, I'm going to use that bitch for everything it's worth. That's the way it's going to be. If it's a tool and it's there and I can use it, I'm going to make myself sharper. You can do whatever you want. And I've got some AI tools, but that is where we're headed and that's where we're at. Now, the thing with AI is that it is a dual-edged sword, and I've already started seeing this with people. You are either going to use AI to make yourself sharper, or you are going to dull the hell out of yourself with it. You're going to have it do all the work and thinking for you, and that is just tremendously scary. Why would you give up your power? Like, don't do that. But instead, you make it a research assistant. You make it run out and go get the information for you and bring it in. I have used it for me that way. Oh my God, I have learned so much. And in a very short time. And generally, again, they hallucinate and they make errors, right? So you do have to really be careful with it. But generally, I can go to it and go, hey, I'm having a problem with this paragraph that I'm reading. I generally think this is what he's saying. And I tell it to critique me, and it can say, yeah, here's what you got right. Here's the one thing you're missing. And I'm like, that's so helpful because I can't afford a tutor. I can't afford to go to college. I've got 3 kids and I've got to take care of them. I got to get them into college, hopefully with, no debt. And that's what we're working on, but I don't have that opportunity. So I'm going to have to use it. Now, if you don't necessarily want to use ChatGPT, granted, I can understand. There's another. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to do a deep dive into it soon. But the Encyclopedia Britannica has their own AI now. It's really good. Like it's superb. And really it's more like a general research assistant in that I can ask it a question, and what it's going to do is it's going to go pull from its archive of highly vetted encyclopedic articles, and it's going to then give me the articles it pulls from and then give me a synthesis of all the information it gave me. It has made my life tremendously better when I'm trying to figure concepts out. Now, with the AI stuff out of the way, I do want to talk about how am I setting up my self-learning course. And yes, I did say course because I'm doing this full on for myself and for you. So the way I set it up is I'm doing an ultra learning program. And if you don't know what ultra learning is, there are great many videos on it. It's a really good, I think Scott Young is the author of the book, but it is a way to rapidly learn something very fast. The guy who wrote the book, he talked about how he learned the MIT computer science course, I believe, in 1 year by himself. And he passed their exams, like aced them. And what he did is it wasn't his method, but he started looking at all these thousands of people who were super learners and realized that they do a bunch of stuff the same way. And that's where ultra learning came from. So I had ChatGPT. I said, hey, I want to learn cultural anthropology, particularly semiotics. Excuse me. And it said, okay, here's what we need to do. And I said, okay, design me an ultra learning course. So it has designed me a whole full-on, kind of feels like a college course. At least there's a certain higher caliber than I would just kind of winging it on my own. And so the first 2 books that I have to read, I don't remember the second one, but the first one that I have been reading through, and I'm about halfway through my reading assignment, is the first 2 chapters of The Interpretation of Culture by Clifford Geertz, which has been a fabulous read. And so I was like looking at it and I was like, oh, this is great. I love it. But, it didn't suit my purpose. I was like, well, why am I learning cultural anthropology? Well, it's for world building. So instead of exams, you know better, little dork. Okay, so I said my purpose is to world build. Well, if I'm not going to learn these by trying to put them through world building, then this isn't what I want to do. And then I thought, well, I don't want to just take exams, right? I do want to, sorry, take exams so that I know what I'm doing, but I want to do more than that. And so what I did is I said, okay, the exams have 3 parts. The first part is kind of an exam to show that I understand it. And yes, I'm going to have to be my own proctor for the exam. Okay, well, I'm going to have to be honest with myself. Okay, great. I went to therapy for this. Second is that I'm going to have to then take that information and recontextualize it into world building concepts. And the third for you is to take those world building concepts and turn them into a video essay that where I'm saying, here's what I've learned and here's how we apply it to world building. And I think that's great because, you know, the best way to learn is to teach it to someone, because you have to start thinking of all the different ways that you have to like explain something or get it down to where they can understand it, or to anticipate the questions that they might have if you don't explain it very well. So that's how I did it. I honestly would suggest you go to ChatGPT and say, I want to learn about X topic for the purposes of world building. Give me an ultra learning class. Now you might need to go learn what ultra learning is, but it breaks it down. And so there you go. The number 2 way to become the most excellent world builder ever is to become a lifelong learner and start learning these disciplines, these academic disciplines that have these books out there, and start learning them and take the concepts and make them your own, reshape them into world building tools. I mean, again, look at all these great world builders out there: Sanderson, Tolkien, Martin, other people who, Ursula, right, that I've forgotten. All these people are highly educated, and it shows in their world building. So let's get it. Now, I do want to mention with books, look for PDFs, people. Like a lot of these scholarly books are like stupid expensive, and what really pisses me off is that the publishing system for them does not give them the money. Like they may, on a $50 to $80 book, they may make $2, which is absolute horse shit. Again, that's a systems thinking problem, where we have a system that ensures that the average audience can't get a hold of the book, and that the scholars have to write the books, and that these publishing companies can make a bunch of money off of it. Anyways, that's my gripe. So going forward into the new year, that is what we're looking at. I'm going to learn cultural anthropology and apply it to world building to give to you as content. So let me know in the comment section below, what is it that you want to learn? What is your purpose for world building and becoming a lifelong learner? And if you have any questions, again, leave them in the description below. If you like the video, a like, a sub, those would greatly help. And you want to support the channel, my books are down in the comment section below, or the description section. Eventually I'll figure out, which one it is. And so there you go. Thanks and have a great day. Peace.